Hey everybody, this is part 2 of King Charles enclosure. Part 1 I filmed summer of 2011 after Jake built this container for him out of a industrial crate. So I'm doing a part 2 so that you can see how well it held up in the last 4 years. It is now almost the 1st of April in 2015. So there's been some things that have happened since King Charles has been living in this container. Let you get a good view. He's in his pond right now. It's actually quite hot already here in Arizona. Got well over 90 degrees today. It's barely the end of March. It was well over 90 degrees yesterday. That means we're in for a pretty harsh summer. To any Arizonans who are familiar with living in Maricopa County, you all know it too. Anyway, so if you're comparing to video 1, you can see that the substrate has changed a bit. Also, I want to lift this up and close the lid for you so you can see how this has bowed out from moisture, because I have to water this thing quite a bit. See that? Doesn't really affect the functionality of it, but this is what happens with, you know, wood, right? So anyway, this is all natural bark in here now. Before I had it mixed with peat and moss, dried moss. Now it's all bark. And I actually don't remember what kind of plant that is. It's not toxic to King Charles though. And there's a little bit left of the strawberry plant that was grown in there before. Here's another little bit of it right here. That'll get bigger as it heats up, but then it'll start drying up again as it gets too hot. His little stone dish is right here where I put his berries. Oops. There's a better view. It was in the sun earlier, so I moved it over there so it wouldn't dry out too fast. He's eaten a little bit of it already. He's already had 2 night crawlers today. About a month ago, I threw some night crawlers in here, about, I don't know, 15 of them or something like that. And they're all in here, and I've dug up a few to feed him because he doesn't hunt for them himself. So I dug up a few to feed to him, and they got quite fat after being in here for a little while and feeding on this this bark. The other thing has changed, if you're comparing the 2 videos, is that the plumbing system is no longer here. It was getting clogged with the big chunks, and actually more cumbersome to use than I thought it was going to be. So Jake took it all out, and we just went with a standalone pond. And it's actually pretty easy to just scrub this out when it gets too much algae in there, and then I rinse it out and give him fresh. And he has a little paver brick right in the middle, so he can climb on top of it if he wants to. He doesn't actually do that very often though. And there's paver bricks underneath here to lift it, to hold it into this this height, so that I could put the bark right up to the edge like that, so that he could just walk in and walk out. Because this thing is pretty shallow. You wouldn't want it to be too deep for him, because he could flip over in there if it's too deep and drown himself. and you don't want that to happen to your box turtle. So anyway, one thing I didn't do in the last video was get up close here so you could see how this was actually constructed, because some people were commenting about how it actually was constructed. And basically Jake cut out these openings at, you know, the certain height level and attached these, and then he reinforced the crate itself, put hinges on the top, reinforced it there, and he put this middle piece so that I could prop it up with that piece of wood right there. And I leave it open all the time. I'm not worried about like coyotes coming in here, or hawks or eagles or anything like that, although there are some in this neighborhood. So you could see where, like, over time, like, that's coming apart a little bit. But you know what, I yanked this thing around quite a bit. Like, I just pushed it out into this spot. It was back here against the house. And then what I do in the winter time is, when he's hibernating, is I I plug in a low wattage incandescent bulb and a heater and a timer, so that it goes off and on every night and every morning in the wintertime, because it does get below freezing in this part of Arizona in the wintertime, and you don't want them to freeze to death while they're hibernating or having any kind of problems like that. And then when it's, you know, warm enough and I could take all that stuff off, I mean the heater and everything, I could take it all down and put it away for next year. Then I push him out into the sunshine, so when he's coming out of his hibernation, he could just go crawl out into the sunshine and get his vitamin D's, which is very important for reptiles. I don't know if you know that. If they don't get their vitamin D's, they start getting a thing called metabolic bone disease. And it's one of those kind of diseases that if it's left to go on and on and on, it can get to the point of no return where you can't, like, recover them to good health anymore. And it depends on the animal what point in their life that actually happens. I mean, being a professional pet sitter, I've seen all sorts of situations with different kind of reptiles, lizards and turtles and tortoises and you name it. And you know, sometimes they can be brought back, you know, the disease can be reversed, and other times they got permanent damage and it shortens their lives. So you don't want to let that happen. If you can't let them get natural sunshine, you got to figure out how to do it with the lighting system in the house or wherever you got them set up where they're not getting their natural sunshine. Like my two parrots in the house, I just put up a new light for them that's supposed to simulate the UVA and UVB of the sun's rays. That's hanging over their heads in the house, and you have to change out those bulbs like every 18 months because they do wear, you know, they stop emitting those UVAs and UVBs after a while. So anyway, this thing is on rollers, which you could see one of them. They're like those cheapy little things you get at Harbor Freight. They're just little platform rollers. There's one on each side. And so when I go to push this thing back and push it out, I just, you know, I leave that there, those rollers there all the time. I don't, you know, try to take it off or anything, so it's always sitting in this position so I can move it back and forth. So let me tell you why there's been some changes to his substrate. It was last spring or the spring before, I can't remember now, but some fire ants decided to make a nest in his enclosure. And I discovered them, and they're, you know, I saw just a few, and I wasn't too worried about it. But then I started to see more and more, and then after a while they were like attacking King Charles. And that's bad, because when I went online to research fire ants and tortoises, I found out that there have been cases of tortoises being, or I should say box turtles, being killed by fire ants. So of course that scared the crap out of me. I had to do something about it. So I tried to kill the ants that were in there, and I couldn't do it no matter what I did. And I tried all the natural methods possible. Don't leave any comments telling me, did I try this, did I try that? The answer is yes. I even tried boiling water. So what ended up happening was that we had to take him out of there. Well, I had to take him out of there anyway, because they kept attacking him. So he was running around in the yard here, and we bricked up the openings to the gate, the RV gate over there, so he couldn't crawl out into the front. And we were trying to kill the ants in here while he was crawling around out there in the yard. And anyway, after like several attempts, we couldn't do it, so we had to take all the substrate out and totally make sure that everything was dead inside this container. And then I bought all new bark, and I made sure it was safe for animals. It didn't have chemicals in it or some kind of pre-treating junk that's gonna, you know, hurt them and all of that. And we bought all new, it was, I don't know, 6-8 bags of it to fill this up. And that's actually when Jake decided to take that plumbing off of there, and we got this different saw surface for a new pond for him. And I bought those different plants right there too. But I saved some of the strawberry plants from the previous ones. Anyway, so we put it all back in and put him back in, and he was happy to be back in here because he felt kind of lost running around in this gigantic yard with no place to hide. He kept looking for places to hide. It was kind of funny. Anyways, and then I broke down and bought some of this stuff. This is cheap ant killer. Just whatever kind of ant killer. You know, whatever giant kind of ant killer I can get. And what I do, because I do not want to poison him, is I will spray it all around here on the bricks. All around like that. Just spray it all around. And then I spray it underneath as well. Underneath this thing. All under there. On all around the sides. But make sure it's like wet with the ant killer. So basically what happens is it keeps them from crawling into the enclosure and starting another nest. And I've been doing that for a while now, and it's been working. So I just make sure that I do that spraying every like couple of weeks, every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks, whatever. During the height of ant season, where I see a lot of them in the yard, I'm doing it every 2 weeks maybe. And then if I like wet this thing down a lot, where it's like making like, you know, rivers of water around the outside right here, basically it's washing it away. I wait for it to dry and I spray it again. So I do not like using conventional insecticides. I hate it, in fact. But if that's all I could do to make sure that they don't get to him, that's what I gotta do. Anyhow, so I don't know how much longer this thing's gonna last before it just completely falls apart, but it seems to be holding up well. And if you want to come up with a nice 2x4 by 18 inches deep container for your box turtle, go get yourself one of these wooden industrial crates, pre-treat it inside and out with something that's going to help it to be a little bit waterproof, and do these cutouts and get your chicken wire and make a hinge out of the top, and hey, you got yourself a nice little outdoor enclosure that keeps your box turtle nice and safe out here. So please like and subscribe. I would appreciate it. And check out the first video as well, which I'm going to re-edit because frankly I don't know how to edit video and I have to learn. So hopefully they'll both look good after I finally get it figured out. Alright, thanks a lot. Bye bye.